Welcome to Sugar, Spice, and Spirits, where happy hour meets hustle, and the only thing stronger than our cocktails are our opinions. Get ready to laugh, learn, and maybe question a few life choices. Cheers to being a little smarter and a whole lot spicier. So grab your drink, kick back, and let's mix a little business with a whole lot of fun. Because around here, success is always on the menu.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sugar, Spice, and Spirits. I am one of your hosts, Mindy Price, along with my co-collaborators, Williams,
Natalie Pilkinton.
And notice how I did that? I made sure they introduced themselves. Natalie taught me that so that I don't mess up on this one's name.
Yeah, because Williams is so hard to pronounce and remember.
It's really new for me.
I know, it is. It is new.
All right.
You're allowed.
So in all seriousness, super excited to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in today for another episode. Today, we're going to share with you first the sip of the day. And this one is very special. Just a few simple ingredients that I want to share with you. But the way you get to it is by subscribing to our newsletter at sugarspiceandspirits.com. Be sure you subscribe and then answer the email because they have to make sure you actually want to hear from us. We'll share with you a lot of different recipes, some tips on business, life, and real estate, and hopefully we can have a little fun together. You can also send us show topics there as well. So the sip of the day happens to be mine. And I was inspired because why did I find that tequila, y'all? I just actually forgot. Do you remember?
The coconut tequila.
The coconut tequila.
Right? Were you in
Was
Vegas?
it in Vegas? No, we were actually at your son Ryan's wedding.
Yes. Oh, okay.
We were at your son Ryan's wedding and we were with some friends and I look over and there's an 1800 coconut tequila. And so I call our friend Carol over. I was like, Carol, come here. Because she's the one that no matter what, she'll take a tequila shot with me.
Yes.
And she knows that I'm going to try really hard to make sure it's a tequila that's not going to hurt too much going down. So we took a shot of it. It was super good. It put us in a great mood. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this would make an amazing tequila margarita. This margarita, my friends, only has 3 ingredients. I hope you like it. Let's go ahead and give it a try.
Did you tell the flavor?
Yes.
Oh, it's good. I love
like
coconut. I
like
love coconut.
That's so good.
Yeah. I like the tahini and the chamoy. I'm not great. But you didn't have any. So I'm sure yours tastes a little bit different than ours, but it does add a little kick to it. It's good. Yeah.
Have you ever see those little flavor packets, Kelly, around they're so good. And there's a red one and it's chamoy and you just squeeze it. I need to figure out what it is. It's the best that I've ever had. And
Oh,
we'll
that
have to
sounds
do
good.
it again. And you don't even need the tahini.
You know, like the Mexican
See?
stores and the squeezy
Oh, that's a
kinds.
good idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
It's really fun when you're traveling to different parts of the country too. And you're like, do you have tahini or chamoy? And they're like, what?
No.
Here in Texas, they know what we're talking about. And they happen to like it a lot. So today, what are we talking about? Well, we had a conversation, or actually I had a conversation with somebody. It was a little bit uncomfortable. That episode is coming, but it was about how oftentimes there's individuals who feel like whether they're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or somebody coming up in their career, that if they cheer somebody else on, they're going to dim the light on themselves. And I just have to say, y'all, that is so incredibly disappointing. Thinking that if you cheer somebody else on, you're not lifting yourself up. You know, if you look here, I am wearing a chain that I would normally never wear in my everyday attire. When I walked out there like,
You should be rocking that.
what are you wearing? And if you can't see it, it is a chain that says Boss. And I actually received this as a gift from Evan Happel of Community Boss. I was a guest on his podcast. I got a coffee mug and some awesome coffee as well as this. And I was like, oh my God, I love it so much. So I took some selfies with it. It was super fun. My mentor, his name is Marvelous Marc. If you have not seen him, he is a rock star and he does business principles on rock stars across time and how they've been. And I've received so many gifts from him over the years. And this is one. This was actually my first one. It came with some spices. So I have my own set of drumsticks. I have this right here. And then when I got back from Ireland, I received this candle. It's so cool. Like this was 2 days ago. This candle that it lights up. It's the rock star over here. This one made me put my little Texas A&M coaster here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is rock star right here.
Well, this one's even orange, like the Longhorns. So I just went with it. Sorry.
My mentor also sent me this. So, Marc could think of me as a competitor. He's so much further ahead of me than I am and where I'm at in my speaking journey. Even though I've been speaking for over 20 years, I haven't been headlining for 20 years. I've been headlining for several years, but not as many as him. And this guy has invested in me. He doesn't see me as a competitor. He, like me, gets so much fulfillment out of helping others. And he sent me this book. I just actually started reading it last night. It's called Growing Your Business, What You Need to Know, What You Need to Do. And it's by Marc LeBlanc. And he's constantly sending me these things and motivating me and making sure I'm staying clear on my path, because I've shared with him my purpose, my passion, where I'm at, why I'm doing this. And I've started remembering several years back, y'all. I can remember whenever I was with another company and we had a huge audience. We were presenting something, and it was actually for a big group of speakers who were trying to speak to these individuals so that they would hire them. It was so cutthroat. It was awful. Now, let's fast forward. I've seen it get better, but then I also see those individuals, not just speakers, but solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, where they feel like if they promote somebody, it takes away from them. I think oftentimes, and I'm so curious to see what you all think about it, with social media and everything, not wanting to push or promote or repost or comment on somebody else's story in fear that you're not going to receive that back, or you're getting into their audience and they don't want to do that. To me, and I could be totally wrong and the algorithms could say never do that. To me, collaboration and helping others and lifting others up is so much more important. I do what I do now because I want to help others. I'm not worried if somebody's my competitor. Heck, let me make them better than me, because guess what? If I help them, hopefully they're going to turn around and pay it forward and help me in areas that I can be helped. So if there's just one thing today that you could take away from this episode, is don't be afraid that you're going to dim your light by lifting others up. Natalie, I'm curious what you think about that. Natalie's not feeling great.
She's a little under the weather today. So bless her heart.
Kelly, I'm curious what you think about that.
So I guess the way I look at it is, if I were your mentor and I was giving you some guidance and I'm giving you a pathway to follow, I would want nothing more than for you to be successful, because then that gives merit to what I'm teaching you. If you are out there and all of a sudden, maybe you top bill me, but I'm in the audience or whatever, and someone says, look how successful she is. She's now 5 stars. Well, guess what? Kelly taught her everything she knows, or a portion of what she knows, or this particular speaking engagement came directly from what Kelly taught her. So all that does is make someone in an audience say, wow, I'm sure Kelly didn't teach her everything she knows. So maybe it's worth me pursuing some of Kelly's teachings as well. So I think you're right. I think it's going to build up your merit, your credibility, the credibility of Kelly or, your other mentors, and really open those doors for people who are really wanting to learn and wanting to get out there and be successful in whatever attitude.
Endeavor.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But if I'm going to teach you to do something, I want you to be as successful at it as possible, because like I said, I'll reiterate again, that just brings merit onto me, in that my teachings are valuable, not just to you, but to anyone else that learns from you. So to me, I think it's a positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a positive.
Somebody that you and I both know, Natalie, the name Carol Marple, should be super familiar to you.
Very.
I can remember going through her training class in 1996. Let me date myself. Remember, y'all, I was 2 when I got started. And we went around the room and she said, what do you want to do in this industry? And I was like, well, at first I didn't want to do anything. And what I realized was, listening to her, being mentored by her, I knew that there was so much that I actually wanted to do. Okay, I was 19, all right, not 2. And I said to her, listen, I'm like, listen, don't take this the wrong way. I don't want you to get fired, but I want your job. And she remembered that. And you know what? To this day, a lot of what I've accomplished has been by her, because she invested in me. She lifted me up. And eventually she said, I could have never imagined where you went. I'm like, whoa, let's think about this. I would not be where I am today had you not invested in me. And now Natalie, like you in real estate, when she transitioned out of that industry, she's immensely successful in real estate and breaking goals and boundaries and everything that she does. But what are your, I'm sure you've seen this because you've been in some very competitive environments.
Very competitive, but I think first and foremost, principally centered people is who I like to surround myself with. I have been in situations at companies that the people that I work with are out for my demise when we've all been in agreement that something's going to happen. And then they just completely go the opposite direction. And you're like, what is going on? I'm standing on principle. They're standing on ludicrousy. I don't know. I'm like, what are you doing? But I think in life, it gets so much easier and so much better. One, if you're not lying, you're not manipulative, you're standing on principle. It's like with your kids, right? You want your kids to do well. You want your students to do well. You want your coworkers to do well. If my coworker is shining, if my business partner is shining, that means I'm shining. Like it's just an illumination. It's a more wattage coming in, which is so important with the synergy. Now, you may get a speaking gig that because you being a business speaker, speaking on business and more than just multifamily, you speak to different kinds of groups in different areas. But someone may come in and say they want somebody to speak on real estate focused or investing. And you're like, got just the person for you. Like there's a collaboration that goes there. And if somebody's like, oh, home health is where we're going and we need somebody who can talk on the compassionate side of the business and running the team. And how do you keep your team motivated and not desensitized? You know exactly who to go to. I think as the type of person you choose to be every day when you wake up and go to work, I remember there was this person that started with me and I was having a conversation with her and I think she thought something completely different. I said, I'm trying to get us on the same page and have a complete understanding of what's going on here. It's not riding a bus over you. I'm having a conversation with you, one-on-one, professional to professional. And this is the way we're doing things to move forward. It wasn't a talk down to or anything like that. Very quickly, people who are not good people will show their colors. Typically, if it's in a professional situation, I would just try and not work with those people because, I'm really trying to point out the other side. It's not always, rainbows, right? Sometimes you got some assholes in there. So how do you differentiate yourself when you're trying to shine bright and you got somebody who's trying to back up a bus over you? So you definitely got to set up boundaries and try and limit who you work with on your team and set that expectation and be very clear on what that expectation is. I've also, as I've gotten older, I've chosen not to work with certain people because of the bull crap that they put you through. It's like life is too short to work with people who are the negative downers that won't lift you up, that are against you because you're in the same business or industry. Like, you know what? Just shine bright, bring up your friends, and they don't even have to be your friend, but invest in people who will invest in you. And don't expect something from everybody, but just be a better person overall and the rest will fall into place.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And when you can put your head on your pillow at night and know that you've done right by yourself, by your industry, by your coworkers, by your friends, by your family, then what better gratitude is that to give yourself than peace of mind?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
So I'm curious to know, why do you think that there's so many people that are wired to think there's only one seat at the table? There's only one person that's that leader.
Short-sightedness. I think they cut off their nose to spite their face, their fear. Powerful people who don't need the praise, that are confident, are very scary for those that lack that confidence or the skill set. They're lacking somewhere, so they have to bring you down. So they try and pull you down, bring you down, back up that bus, whatever they got to do. And it's really not your priority to give them that opportunity either. So that's where I think insulating yourself and making sure that you're setting boundaries and not reacting to somebody who is going to be in that situation, cancerous. The good thing about being a solo entrepreneur is you're by yourself. Entrepreneurial world, you're by yourself. But in an employment world, you're not. You may have to wake up and see Susie's ugly face every day. How do you handle that? How do you deal with that? And I think how you handle that with class and grace, standing on principle, is going to be huge. The other thing is, like, my daughter always sends me like videos, TikToks and stuff. And she's always like, Mom, just thank you for always lifting me up. Thank you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why wouldn't I lift you up? You're my offspring. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. You're smart. You're everything. And she's like, there's just some moms that just don't, that are jealous of their children. And I'm like,
So sad.
I cannot imagine not lifting your kids up. And I think that's kind of the same, not that your coworkers or business partners are your kids, but I want nothing more in life than to see the people around me succeed.
Oh, yeah.
And that definitely includes my family and my household, my friends, my girlfriends, my boyfriends, everybody. Not that I have multiple boyfriends.
I
But boys
was
that
kind
are
of
friends.
wondering, like, sit happens.
For sure.
So,
I want my kid to be successful, so when I get old, she can take care of me.
Mine keeps threatening me. Say that again and remember what happens in the nursing home. Okay, so Kelly, what do you think? So I'm curious because I want to draw this back, but why is it that there's so many folks that, or so many people that think there's only one seat at the table? There's only one person in the lead.
You know, coming from a healthcare background, I always did one-on-one care with my patients for the most part. So it was a very autonomous situation. I made the care plan. I made the decision as to which route, you know, the patients were going to take in their recovery and their rehab. And a lot of times I would give that direction to some of the therapists below me. And I will tell you, when I first graduated from physical therapy school in 1990,
I was still in.
I came out, I think for a lot of people that come out of college, you think you're in a position where I thought I could cure the world. And so I started my career doing neurological rehab with spinal cord injury. And these were people who were, you know, walking around one day and the next day they were catastrophically injured in an accident of some sort and they were paralyzed. And yes, coming out of physical therapy school, I knew what to do as far as how to evaluate them and determine what was going on medically and physiologically and everything. But if you wanted me to teach that person how to function in their everyday life, I was clueless. So even though I walked in thinking, I got this, the first person they paired me with was Ann Flores, and she was an aide. She did not have a degree, but she'd been at TIR, which is their Institute for Rehab and Research in the medical center in Houston, which is the medical center is phenomenal. But she'd been an aide for 10, 12, 13 years by the time I got there. She taught me everything I knew. Now, when I've got chills because when I tell you, she humbled me in about 5 minutes. Because when I walked out there and thought I was all that in a bag of chips because I was Little Miss Physical Therapist, she let me know right quick, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to show you a few things. So I very graciously had to scoot over and let her take the seat and let me sit back and watch and learn. And it made me a better therapist. It made me more humble. And so to share that spotlight with someone, just because they don't have all the initials behind their name, does not mean they are not worthy of your respect and you listening and paying attention. And they absolutely deserve a seat at that table because she taught me so much. So much. And I was 23 years old, graduated from college thinking I was all that. And she was, I'm not even saying how old she was, but she wasn't old, but she was probably in her early 30s. Girl, she knew it.
She knew her why. She knew her purpose.
Yes. And she was so good. She was so good. So I think to put blinders on and think that the table has one seat for you and that you're the end all be all, I think is really self-limiting. I really do. And it's self-limiting to yourself, to your success, and then to those that you really, like you said, want to make shine.
So Kelly, what you said about her name was Ann and the fact that you learned very quickly, there was so much you could learn from her.
Mm-hmm.
But Ann didn't necessarily have that leadership title. She just had a lot of knowledge. And it sounds like she had a very good way of communicating to where you could take that information and it just commanded respect. And
oh, absolutely.
So one of the things that I have noticed is that oftentimes individuals don't realize just because you don't carry a leadership title doesn't mean you're not a leader. Every single person listening, watching, breathing is actually a leader. And so it's not about having the one seat at the table. It's about making the most out of the seat that you have at the table. And going back to what I said in the very beginning, you are not dimming your own light by lifting others up. what Anne did for Kelly was made her realize there was so much that she could learn. And I know I'm putting words in your mouth, but you were able to learn from her, and you probably grew in your career so much more quickly. And Anne was probably very much recognized for the role that she was in and what she did. And I don't know if she was promoted or whatever happened to her, but anybody that's out there, when you can learn that feeling of, no matter how young you are, because I remember when I was younger and I wanted to grow in my career and I wanted to move up, and I was just solely focused on how can I be the best. I hope and pray I didn't step on people, and I tried to help them, but I do remember wanting to shine. And maybe because I'm older or the things that I've learned, but I learned early on that helping others was something that made me super happy. And it didn't matter if they got the spotlight. If it's somebody else's idea, I gave them that credit. I'm not going to take credit for someone else's idea. And I also have seen others that will be in a leadership role, and because they feel like they have something to prove, an idea will come from their team. And because it was their team, they took credit for it and presented it as if it was theirs, because clearly it came from their team. And I am here to say, and I will die on this sword, that's awful. Yeah. You're a terrible human if you do that. Like, it is just terrible. I've been in that situation where individuals have taken my ideas and they've put them out there as their own. And it didn't bother me too much until the team around me, because I was like, hey, I'm a team player. I want to help everybody. It's fine. And they were like, no, Mindy, they're taking credit for your ideas. What are you going to do about it? And being young and in a more managerial level role, always worried about my age and what am I supposed to say in the situation? That was very difficult. How do you speak up for yourself and say that was my idea without looking like the word she used earlier? You know, like it's a hard situation to be in. But if you can be comfortable in your own skin and know that you bring so much to the table, your ideas are valid, you help others, eventually others will see it. And here's the thing. If you're at a company or an organization or in a relationship and it's constantly not being seen and your light is being dimmed while you're trying to help others, get out, do something different.
Well, and again, in my situation, being in the medical field, you don't have successful outcomes with your patients without the collaboration of many others. So my patients did not excel in becoming independent in their wheelchair, all because they had physical therapy. They had occupational therapy. Some of them had speech therapy. Some of them had neuropsychology. You know, the whole spectrum. It took a village. And we had rounds every week. And it was the social worker and the PT and the OT and the A, and it was everyone. And, you know, it wasn't just one person. And our goal was to make that person as successful as possible. And it took all of us to do that. And it's not just in that aspect, but just because you have a title doesn't make you a good leader. And I learned that when I went from the clinical side of things into management, and all of a sudden I got to see everything from behind the scenes, and I realized it's nasty back here. There are a lot of yin yang, especially with women. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but when you have someone that comes in and they are your leader, and you realize that when it goes to the top and they've taken your idea or your team's idea and made it their own, then it's very disheartening. And all of a sudden I found myself for a short period of time getting into a clique, because you had those that like the leader and those that don't like the leader, because they could see what was going on. And that makes for a very non-cohesive work group, and ultimately makes the whole outcome unsuccessful. And that's not what we all strive to be. Is we try to be successful in everything we do. Because if my name's attached to something, I want it to be a good, positive, successful outcome.
Successful. And you know, Natalie, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. You said something about women, and you know, I hate to say that. I will say, being a mom of 2 boys and having a husband and being around so many men, it's kind of hilarious, but also sad how much men will be quiet about how miserable they actually are. And so they may not always talk about it, or maybe if they're having their bro moments, they do. They're not as chatty as sometimes women are. Not all women are that way, but there are men that are out there that are absolutely miserable because of the way other men or other women are behaving. And they don't just express it in the same way that often women do, but they might feel it. It's not being said. And I feel like a lot of those situations could be avoided by just being a good human and wanting to lift others up.
Yeah, the silent suffering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
agreed.
very real for men. They don't really have an outlet to talk about it. That's why men need a good social group. Men also sometimes let stuff slide where women wouldn't let it slide. Women do too, like in their friend group, things that wouldn't be acceptable. One thing I want to talk about, dimming the light with the podcast. When we first started talking about the podcast, you and I were talking about it. And then you brought Kelly into the mix. And you're like, Kelly, and I'm like, what? It was you and I, because we did the radio together. Sorry, I'm about to call. So we did the radio together. So I'm like, why is Kelly coming into it? And then I heard the backstory. So, it's like sometimes you don't always understand or see everything either. So where dimming the light comes, sometimes if you just seek first to understand somebody, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? And you go into the 7 habits of highly effective people. Then you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. And that came from y'all's hours and nights and evenings and everything, and the trials and tribulations you went through, illness and sickness between your mom and your husband and everything that happened. You guys always talked about having a podcast, just shooting the breeze and talking about everything. And so when you understand things, it's like, that's awesome. Like, let's go. And what each person brings to the table is like, we're not the three, we're the same, but different. We're all so different that it adds value to the conversation. So see what that other person that, you're working with, whether it's coworker, entrepreneur, see what talent they have. Compliment, bring them up with you. Let's go. Let's make things happen. Let's rock and roll kind of thing.
No, I absolutely agree, because there in future podcasts, there's going to be opportunities where I'm just going to sit back because I don't really have a whole lot of input, because it may be on a topic that I'm just not too familiar with. And that may flip flop, but it gives me the opportunity to learn and to open up my horizons. And I think in life in general, that's what everyone should strive for, is like, just like you said, open up that mind a little bit and say, okay, tell me how this person being on board is going to make us better, more successful, more inviting. And that's, because it was the exact flip side. We talked about doing the podcast and think we never got around to it. And then you, who are like, she puts the car in drive, hits the accelerator and takes off. And we're just trying to run beside her. So I really,
you got to focus here.
I really do think that one of the main reasons why we are actually here and doing this is because you put the car in drive. Because if it would have been up to us, we may have still been sitting in the driveway and idle.
Mark, speak for yourself.
I'm going to speak for myself.
I'd be at the end of the driveway.
Yeah. On an incline. But no, I do. I think everyone finds their little place to complement the group. And that's why we're, there's 3 seats at this table. And, like we said, we always welcome other people to come in and give their input and give ideas on different topics that maybe we may know nothing about, but would certainly welcome someone educating us so we can educate others. So yeah, I think there's definitely room for many seats at a table for success.
And you know what? Speaking of seat at the table, if you have an idea for an episode, a topic, a drink that you would like us to highlight and give you credit for, we would love to hear from you. You can go to our website, sugarspiceandspirits.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter, and then you can also go in and spill the tea, tell us about an episode, have a conversation with us. We would love to hear from you. We're so thankful to have this platform to be able to share with you. And I want to leave you with this, and I have it written so I can make sure that I say it correctly. The sun doesn't apologize for letting the moon glow. There's room in the sky. Be the one who shares the life. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Amen.
Sugar, Spice, and Spirits is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely those of the host and guest and do not represent those of any affiliated organizations. The content provided is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, whether legal, financial, medical, or otherwise. Always seek the advice of qualified professionals regarding any questions that you may have. While we aim to keep information accurate and up to date, we make no guarantees of completeness, reliability, or accuracy. Any action you take based on the information presented is strictly at your own risk. Cheers to mixing a little fun and some friendly advice. But remember, sip responsibly and always do your own homework.